Thank you for watching the video. This is YouTube Medical University. In this video, we'll talk about 5 triggers that can make cancer disappear. Generally, if cancer is left untreated, it will continue to grow and gradually take over the body. However, there are some rare cases worldwide. There have been reports of cancer shrinking on its own or even suddenly disappearing. This is called spontaneous regression or spontaneous remission. This means the cancer heals or disappears by itself, though this is very rare. A research paper reports a 0.001% frequency, indicating it's extremely rare. Cases like these are sometimes featured on television as miracles. Why cancer disappears and the mechanisms behind it are being researched extensively both in Japan and overseas. So this time, we're talking about cases where cancer disappeared. I'll introduce 5 rare cases, and in the second half, I'll talk about 5 triggers that can cause cancer to disappear. I'd like to explain what mechanisms are believed to make cancer disappear. Medical research has advanced, and more diseases are becoming treatable. However, there is still a lot we don't understand. In this video, we'll explore the mysteries of life while also learning in an enjoyable way about how the human immune system works and the mechanisms behind how cancer develops. I'd be happy if this makes you think that the human body is fascinating. Please note that I'm not saying this is a way to cure cancer, so be careful. Here at YouTube Medical University, I share fun medical videos from a doctor's perspective that can help you become healthier starting tomorrow. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. For the first period, I'll share 5 cases where cancer disappeared. The first is a lung cancer case reported in a Japanese medical journal in 2023. A 78-year-old man was diagnosed with lung cancer. During the examination, a biopsy was done to analyze the cancer cells and test drug effectiveness. Then something mysterious happened. Even though they only took a small part of the cancer tissue, the cancer started to shrink rapidly after that. In about a month, the cancer had shrunk to about half its original size, and when they actually performed surgery to remove it, the cancer was extremely small. In other words, it is believed that the biopsy, which involves taking cancer cells, stimulated the cancer cells, activating our immune system and causing it to attack the cancer cells. The next case is one where it is suspected that the cancer shrank as a result of COVID-19. It was reported in a British academic journal in 2022. These were cases of blood cancers, such as leukemia and lymphoma, including kidney, renal, and colorectal cancers, totaling 16 patients. There have been reports that after being infected with the novel coronavirus, the cancer shrank. Why? Why does cancer shrink or go away after a novel coronavirus infection? Like I mentioned before with lung cancer, when we get the virus, we get a fever, right? The immune system is activated to fight off the virus. Because of that, it's believed that the immune system may have attacked the cancer cells as well. The next case is liver cancer. In fact, it's believed that liver cancer is one of the types of cancer that is most likely to disappear on its own among all cancers. A multinational research team, including the United States, reported this. When they gathered patients with untreated liver cancer, they found that surprisingly, 0.4% of all cases saw their liver cancer disappear on its own. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? At the beginning, I mentioned that the probability of cancer disappearing on its own is 0.001%. But for liver cancer, it happened in 0.4% of cases. It's interesting to think about the reasons for this. Actually, the liver has many functions, but it also plays a very important role in the immune system. The liver is an organ where immune cells tend to gather, and it also produces important antibodies for the immune system. So even if cancer cells appear in the liver and try to grow, it's thought that the liver's immune functions might eliminate them. This is just my guess, but of course, there are also cases where someone was diagnosed with liver cancer, but it was actually a misdiagnosis, and the so-called cancer disappeared naturally because it wasn't really cancer in the first place. That's what I think, so we need to be careful here. But as I mentioned in the first 3 cases, it seems that the trigger for cancer to disappear is deeply related to the immune system. The human body is truly mysterious, isn't it? The next case is about pancreatic cancer. The pancreas is called the silent organ. And especially when cancer develops in the pancreas, pancreatic cancer is known to have a poor prognosis. The 5-year survival rate, which is the percentage of people who live for 5 years after diagnosis, is much lower compared to other cancers. That's typical of pancreatic cancer. For more information, see the video linked in the description. This report is from Japan. This 59-year-old woman was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and attempted surgery, but cancer had already spread to lymph nodes throughout her body. And to make matters even more unfortunate, after pancreatic cancer surgery, she developed pancreatitis, a condition where pancreatic enzymes leak out, causing sudden inflammation, severe abdominal and back pain. She ended up developing acute pancreatitis. Acute pancreatitis is extremely painful. You can't eat, and above all, the pain is unbearable. And she also has a high fever. A report suggests that severe inflammation from her acute pancreatitis may have benefited her, as the metastasized lymph nodes disappeared on their own over a year. She had severe acute pancreatitis, but the intense inflammation is thought to have made her metastases disappear. Finally, this is a breast cancer case. This is a case reported in Europe, but there have been many other reports of breast cancer disappearing spontaneously. This is a woman in her 70s who was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, which is a type of breast cancer. She was waiting for the day of her surgery. Before undergoing surgery, she had preoperative tests, including blood tests and various imaging examinations. Then, surprisingly, during the preoperative tests, it was reported that the breast cancer had disappeared on its own. After that, she underwent follow-up examinations multiple times, but there was no recurrence. It's unclear why the breast cancer vanished, but the immune system may have played a role. Breast cancer is also sensitive to hormonal balance. It is believed that these factors may be intertwined as triggers for the disappearance of cancer. What did you think? Although it's extremely rare, such mysterious cases have also been reported in academic papers. Now then, in the second half, what other triggers are there for the disappearance of cancer? There are many technical terms in the papers that are hard to understand, but I'll try to break them down and explain them as simply as possible. 5 triggers believed to cause the disappearance of cancer. The first trigger is genetic mutations in cancer cells. Our bodies are made up of cells, and cancer is also made up of cells. In fact, cancer cells are inherently unstable. For example, our skin doesn't suddenly grow larger or develop holes, right? It's stable. But with cancer, once it develops, it keeps growing, can cause bleeding, spread throughout the body, and continues to proliferate. These are abnormal cells. This kind of proliferation happens because genetic mutations have occurred. In other words, they are unstable cells. Just as red blood in our bodies has a lifespan, so do red blood cells and other cells. After a certain number of days, a process called apoptosis occurs, where the cell dies on its own. Such a mechanism is built into our genes. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because these cancer cells are unstable, they can undergo various mutations, and there's a possibility that they might accidentally mutate in a way that causes them to die through apoptosis. From the cancer's perspective, it wants to keep growing bigger and bigger, but due to some genetic error, it ends up self-destructing. It's believed that some cancers may disappear through this kind of mechanism. The cancer disappears. This is the mechanism. The second of the 5 is this: blood vessels don't form properly, so the cancer cells become malnourished and die. The cancer dies from lack of nutrition. What does that mean? Cancer cells keep growing, right? Cancer needs nutrients in order to grow. So, for people whose bodies are being overtaken by cancer, even if they eat food, it ends up nourishing the cancer and they keep losing weight. In other words, cancer also needs nutrients. To keep growing, cancer rapidly builds and draws in all kinds of blood vessels. However, if the cancer grows too rapidly, blood flow can't reach the center of the tumor properly, and that part can become necrotic, causing the cells to die. Without blood vessels, nutrients and oxygen can't reach the area, right? And when these cancer cells become necrotic and die, an immune response occurs, which may cause the cancer cells to die off from the center. That's one possible mechanism. Isn't it interesting when you consider the reasons? The cancer disappears. Here is the third of the 5 mechanisms that are being considered. It's the stimulation from surgical procedures, specifically the lung cancer case I mentioned earlier. A biopsy is when you take a sample of cancer tissue to examine it under a microscope, check immune responses, and perform various tests. That small act of taking a sample. It's believed that this stimulation might actually be the trigger that causes the cancer to disappear. Removing tissue can cause bleeding and other issues in that area. When bleeding occurs, immune cells from the blood flow out, and it's thought that this activates the immune system, which then attacks the cancer cells, causing the tumor to shrink or even disappear. I think this is somewhat similar to a vaccine. Some vaccines introduce the target virus into the body, and then, by activating the immune system, your body becomes able to fight off the next virus that comes along. Similarly, by slightly stimulating the cancer and activating the immune system, you can overcome the cancer. That's the kind of mechanism that's being considered. Patients endure a difficult experience, have surgery and tests, and the cancer is gone. I think there's nothing luckier than that. I hope more new mechanisms are discovered and the cancer disappears. This is the fourth of 5 believed mechanisms. It's called immune boost. While the name sounds cool, it refers to the earlier case I mentioned of a pancreatic cancer patient developing acute pancreatitis. It's a mechanism similar to the 16 cases where cancer disappeared after an event, such as cancer disappearing after getting COVID-19. In other words, when something like acute pancreatitis or the novel coronavirus occurs, the immune system is fully mobilized to eliminate the virus or other triggers. As a result of this full mobilization, the immune system unexpectedly attacks the cancer cells as well, causing them to shrink or even disappear. Actually, there is a cancer treatment that uses this mechanism. It's used for bladder cancer. This treatment is given to people with bladder cancer. Bacillus calmette-guerin therapy actually uses the tuberculosis bacterium, which mainly infects places like the lungs. Bacillus calmette-guerin therapy uses this tuberculosis bacterium. This stimulates the immune system, causing the bladder cancer to shrink. That's how the mechanism works. The human body is mysterious, isn't it? Using bacteria to control cancer, such things can actually happen. The cancer disappears. This is the fifth of the 5 believed mechanisms. Natural killer cells, also known as natural killer cells. The name natural killer cells sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? These are cells that have the ability to find and attack foreign cells in the body. This cell also helps with immune functions. They work to eliminate viruses and bacteria. Natural killer cells attack cancer cells, especially during a cold, after surgery, or when the body is inflamed. These conditions trigger natural killer cells to target both inflammation sources and cancer cells. That's what is being considered. In any case, it's believed that the immune system is deeply involved in the disappearance of cancer. Let's recap. I introduced 5 possible triggers believed to cause cancer to disappear naturally. The first is that cancer cells can undergo apoptosis and vanish due to genetic mutations since they are unstable. If they trigger apoptosis by accident, the cancer could potentially disappear on its own. The second is nutrient deficiency. For cancer to grow rapidly, it needs oxygen and nutrients. It is believed that if the cancer grows too large and there isn't enough blood flow, the cells in that area will die off and the cancer will gradually disappear. The third is surgical stimulation. A biopsy, where tissue is removed for testing, may activate the immune system and cause the cancer to disappear. The fourth and fifth reasons were related to immunity. I introduced the term immune boost. It's similar to a vaccine. When the body tries to protect itself from pathogens, the immune system is fully mobilized, and as a result, it may also attack cancer cells. I explained that natural killer cells play a major role in this attack. Because there were technical terms and the explanation was complex, I suggest listening several times or taking notes. Cancer rarely regresses or goes into spontaneous remission on its own. The probability is about 0.001%, which means it's something like 1 in 100,000 people by simple calculation, so it's not something you can really expect to happen. However, it's an interesting field because there have definitely been various reports about it. One thing I want you to be careful about in this video is that you should never think it's okay not to get treatment just because cancer can disappear on its own. And one more thing, while treatments like private medical care are a personal choice and it's one thing to believe in and receive such treatments, you must also make sure to receive the gold standard cancer treatments covered by insurance at the same time. And please be careful not to ever stop your regular cancer treatment by mistake. Even if you believe your cancer might go away without treatment, this is extremely rare. I believe receiving standard treatment is important. However, there are cases where cancer has regressed on its own. By studying such cases, it can sometimes lead to the development of immunotherapy and new drugs. It's getting a lot of attention in the medical community, so I covered it in this video. Please feel free to share your experiences or things that happened around you, anything that left an impression on you. If you've seen anything on television news or elsewhere, please let us know in the comments. I think it will be helpful for other viewers as well. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you could rate it with either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you found it helpful, please subscribe to the channel and check out the new videos. That would make me happy. At YouTube Medical University, we also cover kidney, colon, and blood cancers. We introduced the early symptoms and treatments of various cancers such as lymphoma. If you want to learn more, I've put together links in the description, so please check them out. Well then, see you in the next video. As a general practitioner, my patients have taught me how to live agelessly, even past 70. It became a bestseller in 4 Amazon categories and reached #1 in gift rankings. These are things I've learned from my patients while working as a doctor every day. I've compiled important ways of living and health methods into one book. It's a book that will make you think, I want to live a healthy life like this too. It's on sale and getting great reviews, so check it out.